Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sailing Prima BarcaVela podcast, a podcast where we're trying to meet as many people as possible who are out sailing the world, pick up great tips. Today we're talking with Jamie and Tobin from sailing vessel Penelope. They are on a DeFore 382 with their two boys. They are going from Los Angeles to Catalina right now and sailing some of the West Coast. In our chat, we had a really great talk about different anchorages all along the West Coast, down to Mexico, where to go, what to see, what to do. It's amazing how diverse Catalina is. But yeah, definitely listen to this one. They also spent time on a trimaran where they lived on it for a year in a marina. But Tobin actually comes from a sailing family, and when he was 14, they sailed all the way down the West Coast, across the Pacific to Marquesas, and then back to Hawaii, and then back to the West Coast. Anyway, really great chat. These are some great, beautiful souls. I'd love for you to hear this chat that I had with them. Take a listen, and please subscribe to our channel so we can do more of this. We are on Patreon, but not much of a presence there. Also, we're on sailing vessel Prima BarcaVela, or just go to our website to find everything. It's the easiest thing. Just www.sailingpb.com. I know it sounds like peanut butter, but pb.com. Sailingpb.com is where to find everything, all the links to everything that we're doing with podcasts and where we're sailing. We are going to BVI's in March. Pretty excited about that. We're going to be on a Lagoon 40. 5 of our good friends are coming with us. I got my captain's license last year, so I will be skippering, captaining that, and we'll be definitely talking about that. I'm going to do a different podcast coming up soon where Jennifer and I talk about our sailing experience last year. We did a sabbatical, took unpaid leave from work. We sailed around Guadeloupe for a month, and then we went to Thailand and explored on land, and then also sailed there. But we definitely want to talk more about that. We had put out some podcasts last year about the prep going up to that. Now we want to go over all the amazing places that we went and saw and the things we did. I want to share that with everybody, where to go, what to see, some huge, awesome highlights for that. Anyway, let's get on with this chat. This chat is so great with Jamie and Tobin of sailing vessel Penelope. You can find them on Instagram and follow along in their adventures. They have some really beautiful videos they're putting out, so please check them out. And again, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and to sailing vessel Prima BarcaVela, which is sailing Prima B on Instagram. The more you guys like the stuff, the more we can put more out. So really appreciate it and enjoy. Hello, hello. Hey.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
Wait, what? You've got a fireplace on your boat? That's amazing.
Yeah. Full-size fireplace.
Love it.
Another little fireplace on that boat. Small, not like this.
Not like that. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Just freezing my butt off in South Carolina, which is so bizarre. Looks like you guys got it cold enough that you got a fire. Where are you located right now?
We're in LA. It's not that cold.
Fire in LA. Man, I literally have like 3, 4 layers on. It's so crazy how cold it is here right now. I mean, relatively speaking, of course. I mean, for South Carolina, it's cold. It's 32 degrees right now, which is 0 degrees for everybody else in the world. But it was in the teens this morning, which is nuts. I mean, that doesn't happen here very often. And I don't like the cold at all. I hate it, actually. So I'm trying to like warm up.
Yeah, that's officially cold. We lived in Maine for a little while, so we remember those temperatures, but
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
now it's like 60 degrees with a tiny bit of rain here, so we're calling that cold.
Nice. What's the temperature?
Oh, it's probably like 60 something. Let's see.
60, 60 with a fire. Perfect.
Right. 59, yep.
Oh, perfect. Cool, cool. So Jamie and Tobin, do I say it right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. Just, you know, Jennifer and I are trying to like meet as many people as we can and just have these conversations and learn what we can learn. The thing also, I drive a long way back and forth to work. And what's been getting me through that is listening to podcasts like this. So I'm hoping that this maybe helps other people to get back and forth to work without losing their brains, losing their minds. The traffic drives me nuts. And if I'm stuck in traffic, listening to a podcast makes it more tolerable. So um, I thought I'd just keep on doing this. Like some of the podcasts I listen to are like On the Wind by 59 North and Andy Haskell does a Ocean Cruisers podcast, and I love those podcasts. So I thought, you know what? And I've run out of content, honestly, because I've listened to all their podcasts for the past like months and years. And when I've got nothing else to listen to, I'm like, darn it, I wish there were more podcasts out there that, the rest of us that are not yet living that dream could live vicariously through folks like y'all and others. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start making podcasts myself, and then hopefully, it helps other people as well. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us. That's a smart idea. A lot of when you go cruising for a long period of time, one of the like values of a cruising community is just sharing information and together and talking and hanging out. So this is a cool virtual extension of that, kind of broadening the community in my mind.
True.
The years that we spent living on the boat and sailing around it, it's a huge part of it. It's just meeting other people and talking to them and sharing information and just hanging out really is like, that's a huge part of being on a boat and traveling around. So
the
cool idea.
The cruising community is just amazing. The folks that we have met in our limited amount of cruising have just been so amazing. And I think I saw one of your posts actually, and it said the friendships we make on the water are a different breed. And I love that quote. I actually wrote that down so I remember to mention it during the thing, but that is so exactly right on. I was talking to somebody recently and telling them about we called it a sabbatical. We took unpaid time off from work to go cruising for 2.5 months last year, and we were in Guadeloupe. And we met some of the most amazing people in those anchorages, and they were so warm and welcoming and friendly, and they invited us onto their boat, and it was just like, wow, this is just the greatest community. And they're all so eager and helpful, which is just so cool. I love that.
We met people cruising that we like to know, out traveling on the boat, and didn't talk to them for 10 years plus.
Yeah.
And then like sent an email like, hey man, I remember 10 or so years ago, you said that you went to this place, like, and are you still there or whatever? And then like reconnect, like, like we're just hanging out yesterday, like, which is so
literally,
nice.
literally met this one couple that were snowbirds, and they would sail for the winter months, and we met them. They invited us. We met them on shore, walking around at the Anchorage shoreline there. And within like 5 minutes, they're like, "You should come over later for sundowners." We're like, "Yes." And then we talked to them that evening. We just hung out, and it's just had the greatest time hanging out, just talking with them that evening. And then literally a year later, we're like, "Hey, we're going back to the BVI's in March. Any chance you're going to be in the area?" And they're like, "No, we're going to be close, but not." But it's like we reconnected so quickly. It was so cool. Like how you're right. You could not speak to somebody for a year, but you had that connection then, and then you rekindle that connection, and it quickly comes back again, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask, like, let's start like with the intros to do a proper introduction. Maybe you all could introduce yourselves, and you're on Sailing Penelope. You have a force, what's it, 380, Dufour 380?
Yeah, Dufour 382. Yeah.
Cool. Just a side note before we get intros, we chartered a Dufour 460 Grand Large when we went to Antigua, and I think that was that was 2000. That was our first bareboat charter outside of Charleston. We live in South Carolina, and so I did my training at the Charleston Sailing School, which they have an amazing fleet. And my first out of country or beyond there bareboat charter, we chartered a Dufour, and we really loved it. But it hadn't been sailed in a while because it was right at the height of COVID, which was crazy. That we actually were even able to get into the country was crazy. But there were a few problems with it, but overall we loved the Dufour. How do you like the Dufour?
We love it. It's so nice. We bought it lightly used and have kind of fixed it up to our liking, and it has just been amazing. I was so skeptical of monohulls. We'll kind of get into our history, but my only sailing experience prior to Penelope was a trimaran that we lived on for a year together and sailed on for a year. And so I was not sure how the monohull was going to feel for me, and then also with two little kids. But we've been so like pleasantly surprised with the Dufour. So happy with it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, our for what we use the boat for, it's like perfect.
Yeah.
For us, I think. And it's such a nicely put together boat, and it has all the right stuff in all the right places. We kind of use it a lot like a charter boat in that we only go for a few days at a time. You know, we're both here in LA working, and we have our kids here, and we're, you know, living a land life. So we go for a few days at a time, maybe a week at most. So it's kind of like a lot of those boats are built for chartering.
Yeah.
So it works great for us. We love it. I think it's awesome. And I've been on a lot of boats, and you know, I've been on a lot of different boats, and I think it's a really, really good boat. Yeah, we like it a lot.
Besides this boat, what boats have you had previously that you've sailed, owned?
Maybe do you
Well,
want to start with your
Yeah, I'll
upbringing?
just so basically, like, I'm from a family of sailors. You know, my grandfather was a Alaskan bush pilot and an aviator, and did a lot of boating in the Pacific Northwest. So then his three sons, one of which is my dad, did that lifestyle as kids around the Pacific Northwest. And then my parents moved to Massachusetts. I was born in Massachusetts, and they had, I think, like maybe a 42-foot Hunter at that time. And so from like infancy, I was on that boat.
Swinging in a hammock on the bow.
We cruised like the BVI's,
Oh,
the whole
nice.
East Coast, all the way up to Maine
Yeah.
on that boat as a family. And then, you know, that was when I was really young. And then my parents didn't boat for a while. And then in 1994, maybe 94, my folks bought a 46-foot trimaran that was like derelict in Morro Bay. It was like on the mud back there. And they bought it. I was probably like 9 years old at the time. And they brought it up the Napa River. So you go in San Francisco Bay, and then you can travel up the bay through the Delta and go up the Napa River. And there's like a boat yard back there. It's a nice place for working on boats. And we spent like 5 years just like renovating the boat, basically. Like all of our free time. My parents worked, but all the free time was spent working on the boat. So from age like 9 for me to 14,
Oh,
I
wow.
was doing boat work, like in all
You learned a lot of it.
my spare time as a kid. You know, I'd go to school during the week, and then I'd do boat work.
But we're
Wow.
skateboarding.
Was it what is it? There's different things with trimarans. There's like balsa core, there's plywood, there's fiberglass. What kind of
So a lot of trimarans are homemade.
yeah.
There's not a lot of production trimarans, so there's like a handful of really awesome trimaran designers that have like drawn plans, and you can buy the plans, and a lot of them are homemade. So the boat that we had was a homemade boat.
Mhm.
It was foam with fiberglass construction on the hull. So it's like a surfboard, basically, the hull was.
Okay.
And the top sides were all fiberglass over plywood. Yeah.
There's
So
a cross.
yeah,
Cross
Norman cross design.
Oh, okay. I've only been in one trimaran. There's down in Hilton Head where we'll sometimes vacation. There's a little cruise you can take into the Calabash Sound, I think it's called. And there's a guy who runs a trimaran out into there, and I was so impressed by that. He was telling me though that trimaran owners are a different kind of people. They are very like culty and very like into their trimarans, and they love their trimarans. And if you put one up for sale, they're gonna snatch it up, and it's hard to find them. But then like there's all kinds of strangeness around trimarans as well.
They're cool boats. I like
Yeah.
trimarans a lot.
I loved it. I loved it. I could see us on one.
Yeah, it's all
So
good.
much space.
What's
But
been
so we spent those years renovating that boat.
Mhm.
And then in the year 99, we left for a year. So my folks had figured out their work such they didn't need to be around.
Nice.
So we spent a year, and we sailed that boat down the coast of Mexico, and then across the Pacific Ocean to the South Pacific,
Oh, you went a long way.
through the South Pacific Islands to Tahiti, and then from Tahiti to Hawaii, and then from Hawaii back to San Francisco. And like,
And he was 14 at the
I
time.
was gonna ask how old. Yeah, that's amazing. I love it.
yeah, so, and then during the time we were fixing up that boat, those years, there was a lot of trips like up the coast. Like we sailed up to Oregon a few times, and we went to the Pacific Northwest in that boat one time. So we spent a lot of time sailing that boat, like Northern California coast, which is pretty
Intense.
like cold and
Windy.
rough and windy. And
Strong current.
so it was a really good experience as a kid. And yeah, so we did that whole trip, spent a lot of time on that boat. Of course, like during that time, we met a lot of families that were cruising, and met a lot of cruising people that we've known, to this day, and like was on a lot of different boats during that time, all different types of cruising boats and monohulls. And yeah, and then so then that boat, it went to the Pacific North. So after that long trip, my folks had to get back to work for a long period of time. I was like in high school, and so the boat ended up sitting for a bunch of years, like I want to say like 7 or 8 years. It just like sat and rotted. And
Not completely rotted.
but it got pretty beat, right? So I then moved, I was like finishing the university, and I moved on to the boat. And then I like spent my spare time again, like renovating the boat.
Oh, cool.
And then I met her, and then she moved on to the boat.
So we met in college, just to kind of abbreviate this. We met in college at UC Santa Cruz.
Cool.
And so I, for one semester, studied abroad in Chile, and we had already been together at that point. So when I left, he brought the boat down to Santa Cruz, moved on it in the marina for like one more year of school. And then when I came back, he had made the boat very nice and spiffy, created a closet in the V berth, and then I moved on.
I have
we
like
boat together.
I have like 100 questions for you, but I don't want to interrupt you while you're talking. But for
Good.
one, is it still possible to live on the boat in the marinas? Like it seems like all the marinas are like shutting that down. Is it still possible to live on a marina in a marina?
It seems
think
like
it
people do it.
depends,
I don't know.
yeah.
I think it depends on place
Yeah.
by place.
I've
I
heard
don't
too,
know.
it's becoming more regulated and strict, but I think there are still certain marinas that allow it.
Cool. And studying in Chile, I want to hear how that was. What was that like? How long were you there?
I was there for almost 6 months. It was amazing. Yeah, it was, obviously challenging in a lot of ways, learning a new language and everything, but and culture and all of that. But I did make it down to Patagonia and like traveled around a bit, and it's like such a beautiful country, and
That's awesome.
crossed the border to Argentina a few times. So it's really, really a great experience.
My friend is going to Patagonia next, I think Christmas time, break time, and he was asking if I wanted to go, and I was like, yes, I want to go so bad.
It's
I've
so
seen
beautiful.
amazing things there. So you, I think I read in one of your summaries, you went to Chile, studied abroad, you came back, you went to Massachusetts again or Maine to finish medical school or something like that.
For Maine, yeah,
Yeah,
medical school in Maine. Mm-hmm.
awesome. What kind of doctor are you?
OB/GYN.
Perfect. All right. That's
So
perfect.
yeah, that's great. And then we moved back to LA for residency, and we've been here ever since.
Oh, nice.
And
That's awesome.
yeah,
So your sailing grounds, you man, Tobin, you have like an amazing sailing pedigree with all that, from your childhood and your family and everything. So your sailing grounds right now though, is it like mainly to Catalina and back? It sounded like you might have done like around Baja into the Sea of Cortez when you were younger, but are you still doing that with the kids, or is it just like Catalina and back or elsewhere or
So far with the kids, we've just sort of sailed locally, like Santa Monica Bay, LA Harbor, Catalina Island
Mhm.
sort of area. But I mean, I think we'll go further in the future. Just when you only have a couple
Sure.
days, you can only go so far.
yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to see, like in the LA area. There's quite a lot of boating to do, and you can stay pretty busy, with 2-3 days. You can
Yeah.
do.
I don't think that we realize, not being from that area, how much there is to sail there. But when I was looking through your posts, you had a lot around Catalina, it seemed like, and it looks so different that I was like, this can't all be Catalina. It was so different from one side to the other, and the coves, and like, tell me more about Catalina. Like, I never thought to like go there and check it out, but now I'm like, man, I want to go there so bad.
Catalina is an amazing
Yeah.
place. It's a total national treasure.
It's so funny because we like growing up, we're both from Northern California and there's this whole like rivalry with Southern California for who knows whatever reason. And so we were
SoCal.
all like, oh, we're never gonna move to LA. But now that we're here and we have the Channel Islands and we have like access to LA, it's like living the cruising lifestyle, but also being able to work full time and like support the lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, Catalina and all of the islands, which we haven't actually gotten to explore quite yet, but that's on the list.
Oh, tell me about that. So how many islands are there? I didn't know that.
I think
Yeah.
there's like 7, maybe. I don't know exactly how there, but
Is there populations on each of them, or are some like completely?
so most of them are like there's nothing on them. I think there's like a military base on one of them, or like a military training facility on one of them.
That's where the UFOs are.
That's right. That's what we're looking for. And most of the other ones like don't have any development of any sort on them, and only if the anchorages are pretty exposed, I think, for the most part. But there's like some really good spots on some of the islands that you can go, and like it's amazing. I mean, you can leave LA Harbor, which is like I think the second largest industrial port in the world. You can boat out of there, and in a couple hours you can be at like this super remote, super pristine, beautiful place with like crystal clear water.
Yeah.
And like it's amazing. It's an amazing
only like a couple
place.
hours away, and it feels like you're in a completely different, almost like Italy or something, like a completely different like a place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
what are some of your favorite anchorages around Catalina and the islands there?
we really like the isthmus, it's called. There's like a spot on the island called Isthmus, and it's a good mix of stuff for us. They have like a little restaurant, and then they also have like great snorkeling and swimming and stuff like that. And so with the little kids, it's kind of nice to have some facilities to go to.
Yeah, like you were saying, each spot is so different. So like we found one cove with this family of leopard sharks, and that was like incredible. And then another cove where the water is just like pristine, and the snorkeling is like you're snorkeling, but you're standing on your boat because you can see everything. So it's like, and then there's a couple that are just set up for kids where they have like playgrounds and restaurants and ice cream. So it's like we kind of, depending on what the feel is and what the kids are requesting, we might go to different spots.
Did I also see that you went on like a Jeep Safari Bison tour or something? That's on Catalina also? Like how this island has everything.
So the island, they used to like film a lot of movies there.
Oh, okay.
In the days when they were like making a lot of like maritime movies that had like a Pacific Island theme to them, or like a Western type of movie. They were like filming a lot of these movies on the island, and one movie had like American bison like in the movie, so they just like shipped a bunch of American bison to the island and then left them there. So like now, like a cool part of the island that
part of the history now.
Yeah, and there's like bald eagles that nest on the island.
Oh my gosh.
I know, so it's like the most American thing ever. They've got bison and bald eagles.
And a military base. It's everything American, a little tiny island. How big is the island? Like, I mean, like, are we talking like, 100 miles like around? Are we talking like, I mean, how big?
No, not even. I don't know the numbers. I would say it's
like, is it equivalent to like a Caribbean size island, or like your typical like St. Thomas, St. John? I don't know if you know the Caribbean.
We gotta look it up.
Oh, no, that's okay. No worries.
I feel like it's like maybe like 13 miles tip to tip or something like that.
Really? That's it.
Yeah, it's not humongous.
Wow.
But yeah, it's
to have all of that on like a small island, it seems like it would be crazy.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. There's a lot of stuff there. I mean, it's
definitely a special
the development that's there is all tourism, right?
Okay.
And nothing. There's no industry.
So there aren't like people like living there year round other than like supporting the tourist industry.
Correct. Yeah. There is a little town, like, because there's a ferry that runs like multiple times a day from Los Angeles to Catalina Island.
Gotcha. And the temperatures seem like they're pretty mild like year round. So is there like a really hot season? Is there like a cold season?
Like Southern California in general, just it's pretty
Moderate.
mild, you know.
Nice.
And right now,
But the summer, so like August is probably the warmest time.
but it
Yeah.
never gets too hot, never gets
Yeah.
too cold.
I mean, July and August here can be like 95 to 105 and like 100% humidity. So, and I don't mind that. I mean, actually, I kind of like the heat. Most people hate it, but I'm all in on it. It's right now that I don't like it. I hate the cold. I only like the cold for snowboarding. I like to just fly in, snowboard, and then get the hell out, and then go back to wherever it's warm and hot. I think that would be an ideal place to live, though. I mean, we always hear like San Diego, Southern California is like the most perfect temperature we've got in the States, which sounds amazing to me. That's so cool that y'all live there. Um, I gotta ask, I've seen the pictures and videos of your dinghy. It's a really interesting dinghy. It almost looks like a catamaran. It's got like two like floats and you can step off the front or something. What kind of dinghy is that? I've never even seen that before.
The brand is Taka Cat. It's called
Taka?
Takacat.
Taka cat. Okay. And
Maybe
you
it's
have,
from New Zealand, maybe.
oh, okay.
It's a really nice dinghy. Again, like all those, you know, a lot of time on the water cruising and being around different boats. The dinghy is like one of the most important things.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially for me as a kid that was growing up on the water. It was like having a car when I was
Yeah,
like 12,
exactly.
right? And I really, really like that dinghy. It's like really lightweight for one. And we actually deflate and inflate that thing like
Oh,
to use it. Like so
We store it when we're underway and then pull
start
it
it
out when we
away.
get there.
Unless we're
Oh,
going
that's
a short distance, I'll tow it like a short distance, but generally I'll like deflate it.
Mhm.
We have like an electric pump and I like suck all the air out of it and roll it up and put it down below.
Mhm.
that's brilliant. That's so great on a monohull because, you know, if you don't have like the davits and everything, that's like great for like minimizing taking up space that you don't want to use up. That's so great. Does it have like a hard bottom on it or is it all soft?
So no, it's all like high air pressure stuff. So
Yes.
it's like 10 PSI, like a floor that like you blow up. And the floor you can actually pull out and use it as a stand-up paddle. I don't know.
Oh, sh-
I never used it like that, but you can. And it's just a really well, like nice design. And it's like really stable, right? It's like, you know how dinghies sometimes can be a little tippy because they
yeah.
have on. It like is very, very stable. Like that spot on the bow is like super duper stable. So you can walk on and off out the front of that boat.
Yeah, I saw your boys doing that when you pulled up to one of the docks. This is why I love that we're doing this podcast because like I had never seen that before. I never heard of that before. And then talking to you, oh my gosh, like I am totally in on this. I gotta find one. Like our
They're very
future,
cool.
you know, is
They're
gonna be
cool.
sailing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the stern is open, right? So any water that like comes into the dinghy goes out the back immediately. And a lot of people go like, well, doesn't water like come in the back sometimes? Like if you go in reverse, like
Mhm.
water like wash up the stern. And yes, it does a little bit, but then it goes right back out.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody that's had any other like a normal type dinghy, you know that there's always water in the bottom, which is like so annoying. I used to have like a little sponge, you know, and you like squeeze all the water out of the back all the time. So there's always water there. So it's not like that water coming in the back is fine because it
It's
just
not
goes
like you're in
away.
a giant puddle or
And then the
anything.
rest of the time you're dry, and most of the time you're going forward, not backward, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like,
I know all about the water in the dinghy. When we did the Antigua trip on the Dufour 460, this is such a crazy story. We got there, the first 2 days of sailing were amazing, and we pulled into English Harbor. And once we got in English Harbor, the first day was awesome, but then we got stuck there because it started raining and storming. Like literally a tropical storm popped up in November, like a few miles west of the island, but it's popped up right there. So it was a tropical storm. They had literally, I'm not even joking you, 36 inches of rain in 2 days. 36 inches of rain and just 3 feet of rain. And it was getting into the dinghy that we had just kind of left out. So I have this video, if you ever look back at my stuff, and I'm just sitting there just bailing buckets of water over my shoulder so that it doesn't fill up with rain. It was so incredible. So yeah, I know what you mean about the water getting in there in a dinghy, and then just normal dinghy use. I know like you know, you've got the plug in the back, you got to pull it out, and it's a pain in the butt to always be like bailing water out of your dinghy when it rains. But yeah, that's so cool. No, I also saw you had electric propulsion on there. How's that working out for you? Is that okay?
It's great. Yeah, we love it. It's so quiet, which I love. I would say, and we haven't had any issues with charging and like miles and stuff. It's all been pretty easy to use. The only thing is, I think it's perfect for kids because it doesn't go too fast.
Yeah.
So we don't really ever plane on this dinghy with this engine. So I think if it was just us two cruising, or when the kids get a little bit older, we would want something maybe a little more powerful. And I'm sure they have something more powerful at this point, but we've been really happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, the dinghy's always fun to like pull people around. When we were chartering in Charleston, we used the dinghy and we used a stand-up paddleboard and we were pulling people around like they were on a wakeboard or something, which was kind of fun. But yeah, having a powerful dinghy is always fun for the kids when they get a little bit older, when they start doing like water sports like wakeboarding and things like that, and then tubing is always a good time. How long does it take to charge that electric motor?
I actually don't know how long it takes to charge it because I leave it on the charger and then we get to the boat and I
Like
unplug
when
it
it's on the dock.
and then
Yeah.
we go for a few days and then I come back and plug it back in. I actually have no.
Oh, but it survives like a few days. Like you don't have to recharge it when you're out.
Oh
Out
yeah,
for
for
like
a whole week.
7 days one
Mhm.
time and and we never charged
That's
the
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a long time. It's
Yeah, I can't believe that that's that great. I mean, my car has a hybrid, and I can't even get 20 miles out of the damn thing. That's
yeah,
so.
it's amazing technology,
Yeah.
that stuff. And you can buy an additional battery too, which
Oh, does it hot swap out the battery? You can hot swap it like
yeah,
quickly?
you can just pull it out and put another one on. So you could have an extra battery on board and
Man,
go for
awesome.
long periods of time. They also have like solar charging setups where you could like, have one battery on deck, like cooking in the sun while you're running the other one, and then swap them out when you need to.
That's awesome.
So like, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So that's gonna be my that's gonna be our decision factor. Is that do we want the power of really fast, like Corvette speed around the anchorages, or do we want because I love the electric. Maybe by the time we go, we're looking like a year and a half to 2 years. Maybe by then, and like you said, that maybe they already have the more powerful ones out there. I'll have to look into that. Thank you for that tip too. That's a great
They
tip.
definitely have more
I'm sure.
powerful electric engines that you can get. But then like it's a heavier engine, right?
Hmm.
Bigger battery, more battery.
Yeah.
It just becomes like a more complex thing. The one cool thing about the electric engines that I would say is that because it's so quiet, for some reason, my experience is that even though it's like, I think that engine's 1 horsepower that we have. But it has like a lot of torque because it's electric.
Oh, yeah.
And like it's so quiet, you actually feel like you're going a lot faster.
Yeah.
It feels like you're like
Usually
zooming
float
around, and you're like hardly
Yeah.
even moving because it's quiet and you're just kind of like through the water.
Nice.
It's very stealth.
So maybe in that case, you don't feel the need to go as fast or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah.
So, speaking about like electric, and do you have solar? Do you have lipo battery? Do you have lithium batteries? Do you have regular house batteries? Like, what's your setup on the boat?
We have AGM batteries, just two of them. I can't even remember exactly how much battery we have at this point, but yeah, and we have a couple little solar panels that give us enough charge to hang, as we can pretty much hang out there as long as we want without having to run the engine or anything. As long as it's not like middle of winter.
Mhm.
Um, I had gone through all this at one point, and like figured it all out and set it all up, but like now I can't remember the actual numbers offhand, But yeah, we've got a couple little flexible panels on top of our bimini,
Mhm.
and I had figured it out that it's enough that it like keeps us in functioning, and it's enough where like we can do everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matter of like you can do whatever you want. You can adjust your lifestyle. Like when we did our sabbatical, we took a 38-foot Dufour, or I'm sorry, it's 38-foot Beneteau, and we cruised all around Guadalupe for a month, and we had just two batteries, and one solar panel. And just we just adjusted. We didn't use our electronics as much, and we were out there for a whole month. We never like came back. We didn't like go and charge up or anything like that. We just occasionally we'd run the motor to charge up, and the solar actually did a really good job of topping them up enough for our phones to get recharged, which is all we really needed when we were doing that. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think you definitely need solar. I think everyone needs to have something. It's real hard just to like run a battery down and then like run your engine and run a battery down and run
True. Yeah, for the convenience. Like,
and sit
yeah,
for a minute.
for sure. So speaking of like boat setups, what's like your best, coolest gadgets or best favorite gadgets on the boat? Do you have any like toys that you have other than the drone? I know you got a drone too. What kind of drone are you flying?
It's like a DJI Mini Mavic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I've got a DJI Mavic Air. Mavic, not the Pro. I think it's Mavic Air. It's kind of smaller. Works well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, I have very little to do with the pictures and stuff. She's like really the
Yeah, but I
photographer and
haven't figured
really.
out the drone yet. That's on my list to figure out, but
I've flown the drone a few times and like Jamie's really the one that does a lot of the photography stuff.
I would say like photography wise, the drone, and we just got the Instagram 360, which has been really fun to play with a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
do tell.
yeah, it's just really it's like an adjustment to get used to how it collects picture like information and then how to edit it. But it's pretty, I mean, you do a good job explaining it. It's pretty incredible. It just collects, I mean, it's recording everything all around you in 360 degrees all the time. So you never have to worry about where you're pointing the camera, and you can just frame which segments you want to export. So, I mean, in theory, you could just have it on all the time and then find the clips that you like.
I can't
But
believe they have that. That's actually my thought was, I hear a lot of people who are creating content that they'll sometimes, miss something, or if something, crazy is happening, they don't go grab the camera because you got to deal with it, right? And so my brain was like, oh, there's got to be a solution for that. Like, I'm just going to buy 2 GoPros and point them in opposite directions to just have them running all the time and resetting. I had no idea that they have now that
But it
technology.
is, and it's slightly more than 180 degrees on each lens, so
Okay.
they overlap, and then they've like been able to program it so it erases the selfie stick. So like you really just don't see anything, and it just is like a globe of picture.
That's awesome. Okay. Do you just have it running all the time, or you could have it running all the time?
No, you could. I mean, it definitely would take up storage, and that would be the issue. But yeah, so I just take like little snippets here and there, and then
Okay.
did that
Cool.
one so far.
That's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. Do you have any other like kind of gadgets on the boat that you recommend for folks that like if I'm taking the time now, and building up for a year and a half from now to go off sailing full time, like what sort of things should I be looking for? Like I know one of the things that Jennifer wants really bad is an ice maker, and I'm like, all right, I'll get you an ice maker. She's like, we cannot do this without an ice maker. She's got to have her ice. So
Yeah, I think so depending on your whatever your dinghy setup is, I think having like an electric inflator is super important, right? So we have like a battery powered inflator, and you could have like inflatable paddle boards and stuff like that, and you can use one of those things to inflate those. So that's like a super nice thing to have. I think having paddle boards is important. Like on a little rack on the side of your boat, so that you can always have something where you can throw it in the water real quick and scoot around if you need to.
good exercise too.
Yeah, and good exercise too. The code zero, you got to have a code zero on your boat. So, a sail that you can, a light air sail that you can furl and unfurl is really, really nice to have. And the technology on those is like really amazing. They're really, really easy to sail, really easy to put up and put down and take down. So that's something that I think is awesome to have.
I think refrigeration space too is key. Like we were really lucky on our trip when we had the trimaran and we were out there for a year. We had, it wasn't full size, but it was like a mini fridge and freezer space, which was pretty rare. And maybe boats have more of that nowadays than when we were, that was in 2008. But that was, you want to
nearly full size propane powered refrigerator on that boat. It was like very, very nice to have.
But when you have fresh fish that you're catching, and when you're out there for a few days and you're not going to be near a store, you want to have like refrigerated ability.
Cool.
Yeah, the good dinghy is good too.
I'm sorry?
The dinghy too, that's another important thing.
Oh, for sure. I saw one of your posts with lobster. Do you normally fish also? Do you catch?
We are trying.
So we've never been crazy. So like when we lived on our, there was a year when we lived on that big trimaran, the two of us, and we took it to Mexico, just the two of us. And we did a lot of fishing on that trip, but we're kind of the type of fishing people where we just start trolling behind the boat all the time and like whatever we pull up. It's like right
But it
on.
was so fun. We caught mahi-mahi, we caught
Oh.
tuna. It was like,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff in
Amazing.
Mexico, but like since we've been in LA, we've been trying to fish a bunch. We haven't had too much luck. We caught ocean whitefish on Catalina out of one of the mooring fields. That was
It's actually
good.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
was
wasn't
fun.
too bad.
So
So we're working on it. We have a
yeah.
little pole for like when we're moored in the anchorage, and then we have a larger pole for trolling.
It's just a whole nother thing. I think catching fish is like a whole thing you can get into, you know what I mean? There's so many things you can get into and you only have so much time to.
Sure. Do you ever try spearfishing?
Yeah, I've got a little
Yeah.
pole spear and spear a couple things here and there. It's just like again, it's like a whole nother
Sure.
to be into, but we're all set up for doing those things. It's just
I think we're still at a challenging like little kid phase. So once they're more proficient in swimming and they're into it, then I imagine we'll be, because we did a lot more of that when pre-kids.
Yeah.
So I imagine we'll get back into it a little more so when.
Yeah, a lot of our boat time is like, well, all of our time in our lives in general is dedicated to like doing stuff with our 4 and 6-year-old.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
like, yeah, it's like so we do some of that.
Yeah.
And
And
we're
we
all-
will do more.
yeah.
I love the post with the booby trap lines that were running everywhere. That was so funny. That was adorable. Yeah. That's so cool that they get into the passages too a little bit and they kind of get up on the bow and explore. My boys are older, and the sabbatical last year, the whole point of that was to take them for a period of time and come with us. But my younger one got so sick he could not make the flight. There was no way he could make it, and he stayed with his mom. My older one came, and he had a good time, but in the end, he would have rather gone snowboarding. That's like his thing now, and then I've taken my younger one sailing. We have a small Hunter 25.5 foot that we keep on a really, really large lake that we live on, and it's like I take them out once in a while, and then the comment from them is, "Sailing is your thing, Dad. Or snowboarding is our thing." And I was like, "All right, well, we live in South Carolina, so snowboarding isn't really the best thing to have as your thing right now." It's like maybe you should get into sailing. I hope that like you and I talked. I hope that sometime in the future they'll come back around to it, and that's cool. I understand it. I mean, I would have. When I was their age, I wanted to go fast, and sailing is not going fast. And it's so amazing that you're doing that with your boys. I think that your boys are really going to be more into it, being that they came up with it from a young age, which is beautiful. And some of the videos of you guys in the anchorages and them talking on the radio to other kids.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It was like making my heart swell. I was like, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's so fun to watch them get more comfortable and start exploring all the, I don't know, just like equipment on the boat, and they're interested in looking at the engine and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really fun.
I gotta say though, I grew up doing that stuff too. And around that time that my folks took us on that year-long trip through the South Pacific, I didn't want to go at that time. I was like really into skateboarding and snowboarding. Well, at that time, I was like 14, right? And I didn't really want to go. And I ended up having an amazing time, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was like it was like one of the most impactful experiences of my whole life.
Yeah.
My sister came on the trip. She was like in between high school and college at that time. She came and she stayed for like, I'm gonna say like 5 months maybe. And then she left. She went and started her college experience and decided not to do the rest of the trip. And then to this day, she says it's like one of her biggest regrets in life was like not doing that trip, because it was just like she could have just hung out for another 8 months or whatever and had this like amazing experience. So I'm just saying like what you're experiencing is sounds like very normal. It sounds like what I mean, I saw that same thing,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is your thing. I mean, I kind of felt that way, like it was my dad's thing to like make me work on this boat all the time. And there was a lot of years when I wasn't doing boat stuff, like I think there was many years where I was doing other stuff and not doing boat stuff. And then as we have kind of gotten to this place in life, we were like, I think we want to do boating, and like kind of got back into it. So I think having the experience there is good, having it available. If that's what you're
think,
into, you know?
yeah, that's like our biggest, I guess, message now is like, we had this full debate. We were living in a pretty small house in a not the best neighborhood, not the best school district. And we're like, okay, do we do what we want to do now and buy a boat and start living our lifestyle that we want? Or do we take this money and, move into a better whatever? And we just decided to go for the boat. And it has been, I think, like the best decision. It's just, been such a great way to get the family together and create all these experiences. And so, yeah.
I think like you experience, I think the bonding of your family is probably gonna be really tight in the future because of that, which is just a beautiful thing. I love that so much. And the one thing I've learned in just being a parent and raising boys is something, sometimes you have to, even though there's a lot of resistance to what they want to do, I find that if we end up doing that thing that I want them to go do, because I know it's going to be, rewarding and they're going to love it in the end, sometimes you just got to get them going in that direction. And then even though there's a lot of resistance at the beginning, they end up just loving it in the end, and they find it rewarding, and then they look back on it with fond memories. So, but yeah, you're such an inspiration for a lot of people that you're doing what you're doing with the boys and sailing with them and stuff. So that's just awesome. Keep doing that.
Factor too is uh 1 second.
Yeah.
What's up?
Here, you can keep talking.
The other factor too. What's up, bud? The other factor too is living in Los Angeles. One of the things I really realized is it's like a place where there's like the full array of life is available in Los Angeles. And but it's up to you to like figure it out, right? And find what you really want and build the life that you want, like within the chaos of the whole thing. Whereas like sometimes if you move to like a more rural area, I think it has the area has a lifestyle that it offers, and it's like a lot of your choices are made because of the location, because of the climate, whatever. But I feel like LA is like the opposite. Los Angeles is like this wild place with everything. If you don't get focused enough and decide what you want your life to be, it might like shoot off in all these other crazy directions. And so I think the boat for us largely was like, we wanted to have this like cruising style of life. And it was our intention to like do that and try to live that as much as we can. The other interesting thing is that like, we meet a lot of people that want to cruise like you guys, and having lived like that for a period of time, I feel like there was a thing like where when we were living full time on the boat sailing around, we wanted like to be at home at some point, and I think a lot of people talk about that, like where they get, I don't know if they call it being burned out or whatever, but like it would be nice to be able to go home a little while.
Yeah. To have a home base is good, yeah.
And so having done that and let loose and gone and done that, I feel like we now can just go for the weekend. It's almost like an equivalent experience for us.
Yeah.
As like taking off for a year or whatever, because we know what that is and get that same feeling from going for a couple of days.
Although I will say, almost every weekend on our way back in, we're like, oh, we wish we could keep going.
Yeah.
Of course. Is that, do you think that'll ever be a part of your plan? Do you think that at some point maybe you'll take the boys and go for like a year or two or more and just do it like what you had done, like going to the South Pacific?
I think if we could figure the year
yeah.
away from work and stuff, we would go do that when they're like at that same junction,
I'd love
like
to
high
take
school.
them, out of school during high school in that like weird time of life.
It's a good time to go.
And then go away for at least a year. I think that'd be amazing.
Where would you go? Do you have an idea? Like if you were to be able to go do that, like do you have a sailing ground that you have that you say, oh, I with all your experience, you've said, oh, we've got to go sail that sailing ground. Like what would be your top pick if you were to go somewhere?
Oh gosh, I think the South Pacific for me would be really, I think if I had to pick one, it'd probably be that. But a close second is like Europe and Morocco and all of those areas. I feel like they just look so beautiful.
For sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Tobin?
I go anywhere. I don't care. I just want to go, and
Yeah.
be there, and I'd like to go everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I you know, we've talked about it, and it's probably going to determine. I think honestly, for us, it's going to be wherever we can find the best boat that would match our needs. Like we're open to any of the sailing grounds, and we've talked about finding a boat in Europe, and then spending a season there, and then sailing, just go west and come across the trade winds to the Caribbean and do a season there, and then keep going and see if we can go Panama and then the Pacific. And I keep hearing I listen to a lot of podcasts about sailing, and I hear a lot of the podcast hosts or guests, they talk about crossing the Pacific, and that seems like it's twice as the distance as crossing the Atlantic. So you crossed the Pacific. Was there times that it got hairy? Like, were there like squalls that were just crazy? Do you remember I mean, you're 14, I guess. Do you remember like it being tough, or was it pretty much like okay? I know that you're in the trade winds, and there's sometimes that is it the doldrums? They just kind of get calm and there's no wind. But I mean, was it, did you get scared at all crossing the Pacific? It's a big ocean to cross.
No, it was totally fun. Yeah, it's all.
I mean, like you probably was a little nervous at moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay,
Like the
don't get
full
me wrong.
human.
Like, it's a huge adventurous undertaking, right? And I don't mean to be sounding like one of those people that's like back in my day, but like at the time that we did that, we had a VHF radio. That was it.
Oh my gosh.
So like that was a different time, right? And now there's like a lot of equipment that keeps you connected and a lot of safety stuff. That's totally awesome. And like, if I were to go again, I would have all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a different experience now than it was.
Mhm.
And so the weather forecasting and all this stuff is like a totally different thing than it was at the time that we did that.
Was it just the four of you, your sister and your parents and yourself?
And my sister was gone by the time we had crossed the Pacific. She was over it. She was out of there. So it was just the three of us. And then by the time we got to Hawaii, it was just my dad and I.
Okay.
But like,
It was 30 days.
yeah, we didn't have a lot of wind, I would say, when we crossed from Mexico to the Marquesas. And yeah, we did 30 days out at sea. And yeah, it's totally fun. It's like it's amazing. It's just like any immersive experience that you do, right? Like even like the simplest version is getting into a swimming pool, right? Like you feel a little bit of tension and like a little discomfort entering the pool, right? But then like once you're in the pool, you're like swimming and it's all good, and you do your best to keep your head above water. And then like it actually you don't want to get out of the pool, right? You're uncomfortable getting out of the pool. I just feel like it's like totally one of those experiences where you like it's like really uncomfortable taking off, but then like once you go, you're like, you're fine.
That reminds me of a post that you had made where you didn't want to jump in the water, or it takes you a really long time to jump in the water. You got to explain that. What was going on there? Was it cold, or you just didn't want to
No, yeah, my own psyche.
Was it fear of animals in the water?
No,
70 degrees is a little too cold.
like I prefer 80 degrees.
Yeah, that's funny. It's so weird because my brain goes both ways. Like sometimes I'm just like, no fear, jump right in without even the second thought. And then other times I'm like, And then if I think about it just for a split second too long, I'm like, maybe I'll hold back. Maybe it's yeah.
There's this weird thing with sailing where like people really get analysis paralysis. I feel like with cruising and sailing, like I can two examples of this were like when we were talking to someone recently that was like, oh, we were gonna sail, we were gonna go cruising for a year or two, but there was something wrong with our mast, so we decided to put it off. So like when we did that trip in the year 2000, so 99 to 2000, our mast broke in half like 3 weeks before we were going. And we were sailing the trimaran in San Francisco Bay, and the mast literally broke in half, like at the middle, like this. And yeah, almost went through the deck, and like there was like zero question as to like whether or not we're gonna keep going. Like it was like, no, we already said we're leaving in 3 weeks, so like that's what we're doing. So we went and found another mast and like kept going, because what ends up happening is like something else is gonna break a month from now, and you're gonna fix it while you're underway. So like, there's no that stuff happens as you're going, and you just do it.
But that's amazing, because a mast is a pretty important thing to cross the Pacific with.
But I'm just saying
I
these
guess you
things
fixed that, so it's
Yeah.
happen, right? And you keep moving along, and then like another time I can remember before we went on that same boat for a year, we had the boat like out of the water because it had been left for a long time. We were painting the bottom. And this guy walked up to me at the boatyard, and there was like these little like blisters like on the bottom of the boat that were like in the filler where you like filled to fare like the fairing compound on the bottom of the boat. And like he was like, "Oh man, these blisters, you know, like if you guys are gonna put this thing back in the water, you gotta sand all these things out of there, and you gotta like make it all perfect and stuff." And I was like, "Nah, man, no, we're gonna go sailing, bro. I'm sorry." And we just freaking painted it, right? It's just like, and then
And it was
that
totally-
guy was like in the shipyard probably still. You know what I mean?
oh yeah.
I feel like people really get this analysis paralysis where you're like trying to make your boat perfect. And I even felt it too, the times that like when we went on our trip where like there was a lot of stuff where I like wanted to have everything perfect before we left. And then you leave and you realize like, oh, you just could keep doing that stuff. Like you could do all that stuff as you're going, you know?
Yeah, fix it as you go. Yeah, I think I keep hearing that advice, and I think that's great advice. Is more to pick a date, because picking that date that you're going to leave really holds you to that, whether stuff is perfect or not. And like you say, you can fix it along the way, and you're better off like just going, because you'll never. A lot of people get stuck in the marinas and never go. I keep hearing that over and over again, and that's the advice that, you know. We would have never done our sabbatical had we not like picked a date and stuck to it, because for years we have been trying to do stuff like that. We've been trying to, and one of the other parts of that sabbatical was us going to Thailand. And I kept one of my best friends lives in Thailand, and the second part of that trip was Thailand. And for 8 years he's been trying to get us there. And every year I didn't really like set my mind to it with a date. But then this time when we did it, we set our mind to a date. And then you start making plans for that, and then you go do it, which I think that's vital information for anybody who wants to go out cruising full time, is set that date, because that date, and that's what we're doing now. Like my younger one will be going off to college, and once he gets moved out of the house to go, like that's our date. And from there forward, it is like we're already like planning, like, okay, plan to get the boat wherever we can get the boat. That's our sailing grounds, and we just go. Fortunately, we've been really, really lucky. Fortunately, we've been able to put enough money aside for him to have a college fund. It won't pay for all of college, but it's going to be enough that I can go sailing. So, we may have to sail for 3 years and come back and make money, but that's part of it.
I
But
think
that's our
like
goal, and just set that date and go, I think, is the most important bit of advice.
I think the perfect setup is where you can like go sail for like 4 to 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
Leave your boat somewhere and then like come home for like a chunk of time.
And
Like
then
I,
go,
when we were out in Mexico for that year, like that would have just been awesome to be able to like leave the boat and then like come back
I
for a while.
remember we left like, I think September or August, and then Christmas time, a lot of the cruising families we had met, or holiday time, they all went home, and we were like in the marina, the last one standing. We're like, oh, that would be nice to just like check in and then come back. But yeah.
tell
So
me, tell me some of the anchorages that you did going down. You went down the west coast, obviously, of Mexico, and we don't know that those cruising grounds. We're always like studying like the Caribbean because we're nearest to there, and that's where we go cruising. And then, I know a lot about Europe just because of my work and everything else, but I don't know that West Coast at all. Tell me about like some of the best places to go down the West Coast in Mexico to anchorages and things like that. Where did you love going that way?
yeah, where'd you love?
Well, so we went down, so we started in San Francisco, went all the way down California, down Baja. We crossed over to the mainland, down to Manzanillo, I think, right? Mazatlan. And then back up to San Diego. I loved, in California, there's an anchorage called Coho that is like, right, Coho Anchorage or Coho Point? Yeah. That is like not, it feels like an uninhabited coast, like segment of the coast of California, which is like incredible. There was like deer walking across the railroad down to the ocean. There was like a perfect wave for surfing. So we just had a blast there.
What is the name of that again?
Coho. I'm probably gonna get in trouble for that.
It's like basically like Point Conception on the coast of California, which is like that major crook in the coastline where I think like if you're coming south, right, it kind of starts to head east. There's like a large piece of privately owned land, like right on that point. That's like a humongous ranch. That's like super like beautiful and
Yeah.
pristine. And there's a couple anchorages right there
Yeah,
around that.
I know the one you're talking about because I also follow Breaking Waves. Allie is her name, and they stopped there and they talked about that ranch that you can't get to it unless you go by sailboat, and they have like perfect waves that break there because they're surfers also. Yeah.
Amazing
Yeah,
spot.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So that was the spot in California, I'd say. In Mexico, I mean, the whole Sea of Cortez is beautiful, and we actually didn't get to explore up there too much, but it was anywhere up in there is really beautiful. And then Punta Mita was one of our favorite spots. I think it's a little more developed now than it was back then, but again, a perfect like surfing wave and a cute little town. You would take the bus in and get groceries. And then there were a lot of smaller anchorages like in, what is that, Banderas Bay? On the other side that were like not inhabited at all that you could cross over to for like a day trip or something.
Yeah, Banderas Bay is like a really awesome place
Yeah.
to cruise. It's like where Puerto Vallarta is.
Oh, okay.
And there's like a bunch of really amazing places to go,
Yeah.
like a lot of places to anchor. There's like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of interesting stuff to
Bunch.
see. Mexico's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an incredible place.
Barra de Navidad was incredible because there was a French baker there who
Oh.
like had a bakery and he had his own boat and he would come to each boat in the anchorage and offer like freshly baked delicious pastries in the morning.
That is awesome. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So we were choosing this for my birthday in March. We're going to BVI's to go cruising. We're bringing 5 of our friends with us to do this, and we've got a Lagoon 40 reserve. We're so excited to do this, but it was between BVI's and Santa Cruz, or I'm sorry, not Santa Cruz, Sea of Cortez. And so we were deciding which one to do, and we've never cruised that area. We've never really been to that. We've never really been to that. Never been to that area. But you would recommend the Sea of Cortez as a highly desirable place to go cruising?
Where would you
Yeah.
pick the boat up in Sea of Cortez?
I don't remember where the charter.
Probably
Was it?
La Paz, maybe?
Yeah, La Paz. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing
Yeah.
area. I would like totally, that's like, you would have
Yeah.
like an amazing
A great time.
There's like a
Yeah.
couple islands right outside of La Paz that have like amazing anchorage and amazing snorkeling and diving and stuff
Okay.
like
Okay.
that you can go to
Yeah.
really quickly. La Paz itself is really amazing. And then like just up the coast, there's like a whole bunch of stuff to see. It's like a very cool experience. Baja's like a, I don't know what like the official name is for that climate and environment, but like
It's incredible. It's like the desert meets the ocean. So you have these like rich brown, red, like sandy cliffs and desert, and then this like turquoisey, light blue water. It's really neat.
That's awesome. I mean, I've heard good things. I never really explored it deep enough. That's awesome. That's a great tip. Thank you. Appreciate that. What kind of crazy stuff have you seen anything really insane like in your travels when you've been on the water? Is there any kind of like just holy moly, I can't believe that just happened?
buddy, kayak.
Oh yeah, I mean there's been a handful, but I think the
Oh.
one with you and your dad in the South Pacific is funny.
Which
Where you have to jump in for the or I don't know, there was some
we had
sort of
we had a crazy one the other day actually. We were sailing so like from the closest point on like Los Angeles to Catalina Island, it's like 18 nautical miles, right? Which is pretty far. And it's like due south to Catalina Island from LA.
Okay.
And the wind's generally like northwest. So it's like upwind general-ish, like going from the island to the mainland. And we were
and strong currents, like decent waves. There's always like a wind shock that you're fighting
and
against.
it's like a massive shipping channel, right? So like there's like
This doesn't make
it's like going in and out of there like crazy. There's just like a lot of traffic and it's just like it looks nice, you know what I mean? When you're up on the cliffs in Palos Verdes, like looking down at the channel, you're like, oh, this looks nice, but it can be pretty dicey out there. So we were coming from Catalina back to the mainland a few weeks back. And I was just kind of hanging out, sailing along, and then I looked over my shoulder and I saw what looked like a guy in a kayak, like 5 miles off of Catalina, like in the channel, right? And I was like, oh, that's a little strange. And then I was like, oh, it's probably just like some badass, like, there's a lot of like serious athletes like
Sure.
in LA that like do crazy stuff like that, like paddleboard across, or something. And that was like initially what I thought, like, oh, it's probably just a badass dude. But then I was like thinking about how like the guy's kayak was he was like taking a few strokes and then kind of just cruising. It's like, it's kind of weird. So I turned the boat around.
It was
And
also like 1 p.m. or something like that.
yeah, it was like 1 p.m., right? And so it's going to
Yeah.
be dark in like 3 hours and change.
Huh.
And like, I'm like, in a kayak, this guy's got to be like hauling butt if he's going to like make it back, And, but he wasn't hauling butt. So I turned around, right? And as I like got closer, it was like a young guy in this like open top, sit on top kayak with like a gallon of water in between his legs, like a pair of shades, a
No
life jacket,
wetsuit.
no wetsuit,
No
shorts,
wetsuit, peanuts and a gallon of water, that's it.
bag of peanuts,
Oh.
and a little silver whistle. and I pulled up next to him. I was like, "Hey man, you all good? Like, you know what you're doing out here? You're all set." And he's like, "I'm good." I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
like, "Hey, bud, are you sure you're all good?" He was like, and I was like, you just jump on board here. I'll give you a ride across the channel. You'll be good to go. And he was like, okay, I'll get on board.
So he didn't really realize how far away he was from land or something.
I don't
So
think so, yeah.
so basically what ended up happening is this young guy went to the beach in LA
Redondo
and
Beach.
rented a kayak
Just rented one.
and started paddling around and then realized he was like closer to Catalina Island than he was the mainland at some point. And then he was like, oh, I'll just keep going to Catalina. So that he kept paddling towards Catalina and he didn't get in until after midnight. So he's paddling across the San Pedro Channel in an open top kayak with no wetsuit, no gear whatsoever.
This was like November too, not exactly
Ooh,
summertime.
And like and then
possibility.
stayed on the island for a couple days. And then he was like, yeah. And then it was time to go back. They wouldn't let me take the kayak on the ferry. So I just decided to charge it. And I was like,
I
oh,
left later in the morning than I had planned.
yeah.
You probably saved that guy's life. I mean, seriously.
So I was talking to a good pal of mine who used to drive the Baywatch boat, and he's like a lifetime lifeguard around there. And he was like, "Oh man, you saved that guy's life for sure." He's like, "There's no chance that guy was gonna like make it back."
For
And
sure.
that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That was a crazy recent one.
Yeah, the funny twist to that too was like after we had given him a ride for maybe a couple of hours, we ran out of gas. We were like,
yeah.
oh, we were running out of gas, and then I think he got really sketched out, and he's like, I'm gonna jump off. Is that okay?
He jumps off.
This is the makings of a really great scary movie.
Yeah, right. But he was yeah, definitely within like a couple of miles at that point, luckily.
Wow.
So.
That's incredible. I saw some really cool video you had of some like amazing dolphin experiences too. Those look pretty cool.
There's so much wildlife out here. There's whales. Actually, I don't know if you've seen recently on some of the other sites, but they've had orcas out here in the Channel Islands, which is really unusual. So we haven't seen them, but
Yeah.
our friends have seen them and gotten
Wow.
some.
As long as they're not the orcas that attack your rudder, we're good to go. Yeah, I've seen those stories. Those are crazy. The orcas off of Gibraltar, when you're coming out of the Strait of Gibraltar, they're attacking rudders. They want to play with them and like tug of war with them, and it's a crazy scene over there right now. And they're trying to figure out all the different ways to like get the orcas not to attack them or to distract them. And some people say just don't do anything, stay as still as you can. Others say just keep on going, but they'll like bend a rudder stock up and destroy. And some people have been left without like any steerage at all. Fortunately, there hasn't been any loss of life, but it gets pretty scary, obviously, if an orca is attacking your boat. So
Yeah.
It's a nightmare trying to sail your boat, like steer your boat by sails.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the gadgets I definitely want to remember to get is one of those sail drogues that you can use if you had to in an emergency. You can still steer a little bit of your boat, I've heard. A sail drogue, I think, it's like a sail that goes in the water, right? And you drag it on either side to go that direction.
Yeah, you'd have to jerry rig something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one thing that was a big difference for us when we bought Penelope. Is that feeling that the boat could sink because our trimaran, you have 3 boats, right?
Yeah.
So you got to puncture all 3 boats in order to sink it completely.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Then it's fiberglass over foam, right? So even if it was full of water, it'd still float.
Right.
So like when I remember buying Penelope and then sailing out to Catalina and like feeling very different about the experience. Like while on the boat, like in the middle of the channel, like, oh man, like if we get a hold
the
of
whale
boat,
doesn't
we'll
reach
like
us.
sink
Yeah.
completely, you know? And we ended up buying like a nice life raft. We have we have like a decent like
Emergency pack.
yeah, like life raft that we can like inflate and throw out there.
What do you have? You have a ditch bag, I'm assuming. What do you have in your ditch bag? What's the important things you got in there?
I've got all the stuff there. I see the diet in prepared. We got everything in
Which
there.
reminds me, we need to check all the expiration date.
All the stuff. I got everything. We got all the stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a full backpack, like a rucksack.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Got like water, some food.
Dinghy.
Got like sun protection stuff for everybody.
Cool.
We've got EPIRB in there. We've got a VHF radio. We've got a solar charger.
Nice.
We've got a little tons of medical supplies.
Yeah.
Water, like a way to create water.
No, nothing to create. I have like some packets.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking that like if we were to end up in that life raft, we're going to be, for the way we use the boat, it's going to be maybe like a day at most or something like that.
True.
So,
Yeah.
I don't really have a water making device of any sort, but still, I mean, a day on the water in a life raft is a big deal, right? Like you can have problems, right? So, I don't really have anything crazy for like making food or water for that.
Gotcha.
If we went further, for sure, you'd want to figure something out.
Yeah, there's a whole other level of preparedness probably for going greater distances that would be
a different raft too. The one we have is like it's one of those like, there's no like shelter. It's just like a little donut.
Gotcha.
But you gotta, I mean, a lot of people don't even have those. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like even though you're going 18 miles out to this island, right? Like you still could have like, I mean, you can only last like 20 minutes in the water without getting on what's so like,
and there's orcas all around. You want to be prepared in the water.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to ask you the whole time. Your shirt says jujitsu on it. Do you do the jujitsu?
I do, yeah.
It's his favorite topic.
No.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you a big fan of Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan?
I don't know if I'd say big fan, but I know of them, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I listen to them sometimes when I run out of sailing podcasts, and I know that they're really into the jujitsu. And everything I hear about it, I really think I need to start doing that. There's a Brazilian jujitsu somewhere nearby, and it sounds amazing. I really got to get into it. We'll have to talk about that some other time, maybe, for sure. I'd love to hear about it from you.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu and martial arts has been one of the best, it's definitely one of the biggest things in my life, and it's one of the best things that I've experienced in my life.
Are your boys doing it also?
Yep, they've been doing it since they were in diapers, for sure.
That's awesome.
Jiu-jitsu and judo, yeah.
Cool. So awesome. Hey, Guy, how's it going? Wake up from the nap?
Yeah.
I remember those days. Well, hey, it's been over an hour. I don't want to take up any more of your time, and I want to just really say thank you so much for taking the time to talk. I learned a lot of great tips, like I always wanted to do with this, and so hopefully other people listening will enjoy it as well. Before we hang up, though, where do you want people to find you if you want them to find you?
So far, all we have is the Instagram, so stay on Penelope. Sounds good.
Yeah. The Instagram is awesome. Keep doing it because it's an inspiration for all of us, and we love seeing all the stuff that you're doing. So, but thank you so very, very much for this time, and I really truly appreciate it. And we'll keep in touch with the Instagram and messaging, and I'll post this as soon as possible, and I'll send you all the information about it. But thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Good luck on your future endeavors.
All right.
Talk about Mexico or whatever. You have any questions, you can always give us a call.
I will definitely reach out to you. I think the next trip that we plan will most likely be that. If we do we got to do another trip before we actually go full time. So definitely gonna be hitting you up about that because I definitely would think that that's gonna be the #1 on the list to try to go do Sea Cortez for sure.
Check out there's a thing called the Charlie's Charts of Mexico.
Charlie's Charts of Mexico.
Charlie's Charts of Mexico. It's like this like if you just
like
get that and then start to look like like La Paz, and then it'll show you like how far you can, like what the little spots are and all the places.
Oh, cool.
It would like give you all the information to where you could kind of go like.
Thank you. So it's like a cruising guide for that area.
Yeah.
Charlie's Charts of Mexico is like it's It's like an
Like what everyone
essential,
uses, yeah.
essential thing to have, and I'll show you everything.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you. This has
if
been
you-
invaluable. The tips and stuff. Thank you so much. This is awesome. Cruising community coming together again to help each other out. I love
That's the deal, dude.
it. All right, guys. Well, take care. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right, sounds
Amen.
good.
See you guys later.
All right, so that was a wrap with Jamie and Tobin of Sailing Vessel Penelope. Please check them out on Instagram, SV Penelope, Sailing Penelope. You can find them by just searching that. Same with us, Sailing Vessel Prima B, which is for Prima BarcaVela, which stands for first sailboat in Italian. Check us out, like, subscribe, join, share, do all the good things that keep these things going. We'd like to put out a lot more of this stuff, so please check us out and support us. And also, just we're doing this for fun. This is just great. We're learning so much, meeting so many people, finding all the anchorages that we're eventually going to get to and go to. So yeah, we'll keep putting them out, but it does help if you guys go and check that out and like and subscribe. That lets me know that it's getting to you and that you're interested and you want to hear more. And anyway, really appreciate it and talk to you soon. Bye.
Breathe the warm and sunny air, feel the sun